when it comes to the state statutes for the P20 database, I can tell you that it says that those agencies, should there be a breach of this information, which happens all the time, two things that are important to know is that, according to my research on the state statutes of that, is that the agencies have been granted no liability. Okay, so that means that if there's a breach, you can't sue them. And that the second thing was that if there's a breach, they don't have to tell you. So there are steps when there's a breach in these governing policies that tell them that they have to tell the State Department of Education there was a breach, what was breached, and what they're going to do to fix it. But telling you is not a part of that process. So that's huge to know. And also, you can't sue them even if somehow you did find out, which you'll never find out because they're not supposed to tell you. So I have written to every candidate on my ballot about that, and I suggest everyone do that as well, because I don't think that a lot of them know, including my superintendent, who basically went and just sent me all the documents I already had for 3 weeks. So he does. I don't even think they know what they're uploading, to be honest. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but to be honest,
they don't know.
Right, until you tell them what you're uploading, they don't know. So know that you can't sue them, know them you're not being informed, and tell your candidates that they need to change that policy.
I would agree with.
I've spoken to Kai, he's on board, he knows what it's all about. And the other guy is too.
Yeah, there is sovereign immunity for all state officials, and it's extremely difficult to get. There are certain exceptions to sovereign immunity, but it's extremely difficult to go through the hurdles to get any court to agree that any government official has any liability for any violation. So that is an extremely uphill battle, and that's what you would have to do if you wanted to try to get them, to have liability in anything. But I would also agree that it is absolutely crucial for the Attorney General position to have someone in there who believes in the Constitution and actually applies it. The Attorney General's job is to advise and defend state agencies. That's what his job is. And if you're advising the state agency with an eye toward, well, it doesn't matter what the Constitution says, do it anyway, that's one thing. But if the state agency that the Constitution means something, then you're going to get a very different response. And I do know of Kai Westby, and he has articulated publicly his support for the Constitution. And whatever you think, interview them yourselves and find out their positions on parental rights. That, and particularly anybody running for the state Senate, there's only 36 positions in the state Senate. If you, whatever your position on any issue, if you can have enough people in the Senate to stop that legislation, that would be the easier place to go than the House. There's a lot more members in the House. So those races would be the ones to concentrate on, the Attorney General race and the state Senate.
Hi, I have two questions for Deborah Stevenson. The first is, you touched earlier about low-performing or underperforming schools, and in that case the state would come in and require a certain curriculum to be followed. How do you find out if your district is underperforming in that category? And the second question is, I went to my Board of Education, I spoke to my superintendent secretary in Thompson, and they told me that I asked for Board of Education meeting minutes pertaining to all the Common Core discussion and the Common Core vote as to accept that for our district curriculum. They told me that neither was done, no discussion nor any vote. They said that it was state mandated. That was the superintendent secretary. So on the night that we were handing out flyers at our middle school, Rob and I and a few parents, we were handing out informational flyers on the Common Core outside the curriculum night. One of the Board of Education members drove up, parked his car, approached me. I know him very well. He's been on the Board of Ed for a long time. He is very knowledgeable on the Board of Education. I asked him the same question, and I said to him, I asked the superintendent secretary about the Board of Education meeting minutes, and I wanted to know about the vote and discussion. And then I said to him that my intention is to go further with this and demand a public meeting, a public hearing, a forum for all of our town people to understand what is going on, what is the truth of the Common Core. He said to me, the same thing the superintendent secretary said. He said this was not a discussion or a vote to take, this was a state mandate. And I said, excuse me, you are incorrect. We are a state that has local control, and if we so chose, we could do that in our town. Kind of took him back for a moment because I further said to him, do you know about P20 WIN? He said, no, what's that? I said, write that down, go home and Google that. I told him a little bit about it, date of birth, social security, name, address, child's information being tracked from preschool through 20, 12 years of school, 4 years of college, 4 years into their career. So he private Facebook messaged me and said, thank you for the information. I invited him to come to the October 22nd Duffy's Killingley High School meeting for more information to get him on board with this, to understand what's going on. So my question, sorry, so belabored, is that if I find out that we're not an underperforming, low-performing school, and the state does not have the right to dictate our curriculum, we know there's no state mandate, how do I then approach that part of, we are not state mandated, you cannot say that? What, do I find the statutes and reiterate those to them? Is that how I approach it at that point?
Okay, two things. You can find out whether your school district is a low-performing one two ways. The Board of Ed should know that and should be able to tell you. If they don't, then the State Board of Ed definitely will know. So you can do that. Do everything in writing, however. Don't ever do anything verbally, unless you follow up in writing, because people can lie and say you never asked. So, and send a certified return receipt when you do it. The second part of your question, what do you approach them about taking a vote? And, well, again, yes, I would educate them, but in a letter, you would demand to have them do that which they are statutorily required to do. So you set out the statute, this is what you're required to do. It's my understanding that no vote was taken, and we require you, the citizens of the state, however many are asking you to, or the community are asking you to take a vote. And put it on record, make it public, and make them say one way or another, no, we're going to ignore the law or we're not. I mean, and it's just that simple. That's where I would start, at least.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for coming. Take care.